Police slapped the street kid until he found out the truth, and he did not stop crying. Carlos Carranza was a police captain very committed to the institution which he always dedicated loyalty and respect. He was a man of experience, which is why he was in charge of the police force in his hometown. In that country where all the people were intolerant due to food shortage, Carlos Carranza was dedicated to taking care of the health and welfare of the people with his older colleagues at the institution. On several occasions, he would go around the city with his partner on duty, where they would always go to bars to prevent people from getting into trouble, or he would also intercede so there would be no abuse of family members. It would not escalate. Agent Carranza was decorated on several occasions due to his excellent treatment towards people. He never had any complaints from the town's people and much less from his colleagues. Carlos was 29 years old and always had a tranquil life. He lived with his parents and did not even want to have a family because he thought they could be attacked because he was a policeman. Carlos's parents were no longer working and he was the breadwinner. He paid the electricity, water, and telephone bills and did the market as well. At the same time, his mother was the woman who always kept the house clean, besides spoiling them with dishes of food that they wanted, while his father was only in charge of being in the room watching different sports programs to clear his head because he always said that he had worked enough. Captain Carranza was pleased. He had a relationship of almost 4 years with a wonderful young woman named Esperanza. She wanted her boyfriend to take the next step, to ask her for her hand, but unfortunately, in Carlos's plans, nowhere did it say that he wanted to get married, for reasons already mentioned in the story. Even though he did not want to get married, Carlos was very much in love with Esperanza. The next day, Captain Carranza was on duty and received a call from a terrified lady who worked in a well-known supermarket in the city. She said to him, "Mr. Policeman, please help me. Someone is throwing stones at the window of my store." Captain Carranza immediately went to the place of the facts, together with his partner of 1,000 battles, a Rottweiler dog named Zeus, who was trained and had him since he was very young. When Captain Carranza arrived at the place with Zeus, he could not capture him, so that day, he said that he would have him as his primary target to catch him, and did not hesitate to take the statements of the affected person so that one day he could capture him. Days passed, and calls of this type continued with greater frequency, where they said that people were being attacked with stones in their businesses. Captain Carranza was in doubt and did not know if it was the same person who had previously stoned the supermarket until each person affected told him the same characteristic of the person. He concluded that they were the same. Carlos came to realize that this person did not take anything from the establishment, and the only thing he did was to break the windows and leave until one day, Captain Carranza was not on duty and invited his girlfriend to try a delicious sandwich at the place where they sold fast food. They were both talking about life, she about her college and he about his job. They had a great couples talk, and Carlos told her about the bizarre case of the young glassbreaker, and Esperanza said, "Love, who is that young man? Have you caught him yet?" And at that moment, a loud bang was heard next to the back of the captain's table where he was eating, and immediately afterward the window of the following table would also fall to pieces. It would shatter. Esperanza, very scared, cut her lip. The captain, very angry to see his girlfriend with that cut, immediately went out to that place and saw who the delinquent was. Captain Carranza was in civilian clothes, so he decided to follow the little delinquent. The young delinquent walked several streets, and when he stopped to rest, Carlos reached out to him where he would touch him on the shoulder. The young man would turn around in astonishment, and immediately the captain would slap him, which left the young man crying and kneeling for a long time. Immediately, Carranza called his colleagues so that they could take away this young delinquent who was causing damage in the city. In contrast, the young man looked at the captain with great anger and rage, not for having captured him, but for the slap he gave him that left him all red in the face. After that, Captain Carranza would take his girlfriend to see her lip, as the cut she had in her mouth was very deep. That day would be somber, as the captain was having a great time with his girlfriend, and now he would spend one more moment in the hospital. Accompanying her the next day, Captain Carranza went to the police station and began to inquire about that young man, telling him, "Why are you doing this? Why the rage against other people's business?" The young man did not respond and only looked at the floor. So the captain took him to a particular room to ask more questions, saying, "What is your name? How old are you? Where are your parents?" The young man would answer, "My name is Ernesto. I am 15 years old and I live alone. Anything else?" So the captain very bitterly grabbed him by the collar and would say, "Let me tell you, young man, that you are in big trouble, so you live alone? Tell me where you live, because if you don't, I will make sure you don't get out of here, you understand me?" Ernesto, without looking up, would tell him again, "I live alone, understand?" The captain would answer for the last time, "Where are your parents?" The captain thought Ernesto was lying. Meanwhile, Ernesto, having so much pressure, would have a tear fall down his cheek and would answer the captain between tears, "I never knew my father. He abandoned me when I was born, and my mother's name is Rosa. She's in the cemetery in row 5, column C." The captain, upon hearing this, took out his handkerchief and gave it to Ernesto to dry his tears and felt compassion for him. So giving him a little pat on the back and with a lump in his throat, he said to Ernesto, I'm sorry, my friend, for what happened to your parents." "Let me be your friend," said the captain. Ernesto felt calmer and told the captain everything that happened with his mother, that they often had nothing to eat, that they endured humiliations, and for not paying insurance, his mother was left to die. The state did not help, and I had to take her to bed, where her strength was going little by little, and I could not do anything. He also said that he vented all his rage and anger by breaking glass in places where there were people who had to eat, enjoying their happiness, while he had to live alone and without his mother. He had much pent-up rage. The captain, upon hearing Ernesto's story, wiped his tears and hugged him and said, "I'm sorry for judging you. I want you to promise me that you will never do what you were doing again. And now I want you to be part of my family, to be your family. Ernesto, I want to give you my support." Ernesto looked at him tenderly and happily. Captain Carranza took him home to live with his parents, who would provide him with food and shelter, and after a while, he would put him to study at the cadet school so that he would be a great policeman like the person who had just given him his support. What would you have done if you were in Captain Carranza's shoes? Let us know in the comments.